but it's an idea, an offering. Whether it's a product, a brand, a service, a personality, a message, a speaker with a course. If you can do all those things, you can break through and you can actually connect. Get people to follow you, trust you, stay with you, support you, and buy into whatever you're about. It's the secret to success. The problem is, the camera makes most of us do the opposite. Cameras take the authenticity out of 99% of people. Put a camera on any one of you, you become different. We don't know why. It's a hyper-observational vehicle. It scares us. We fundamentally don't like to be watched, even though we do. You know, you don't like being standing up and being made to target on. So I'm gonna come, you have the same last name as me now, so it's okay. Stand up for a second. Okay, she doesn't like to be watched. Now if I put a camera on her, she really doesn't like to be watched. The problem is, we see before we listen. So you have to accept that we are going to look at her, judge her, no filters. She can like it or not. We're gonna see tall, statuesque, blonde hair, big boobs, the whole deal. We're taking that all in before we see anything else. She knows that deep down. We do it. We judge gender, color, race. If you are black, the first people see is that you are black. This guy back here knows it. He doesn't have to like it or not like it. It's just a reality. You go through the world, people see you as black. That's true, right? But we're afraid to say that. We're afraid of that. You just call him black. He knows he's black. He deals with it every day of his life. Gender, color, race. That's how we look first. Once we see through that, we can see who somebody is. We can see their identity. The problem is we don't want to let people really watch us. Then the second problem is we get through that authenticity, that watching. How do we engage people? How do you engage when you can't see anybody? They're not in the room. Yeah, you can try to put a person on the other side because you're still not in the room. How do I keep you engaged when I can't see you? Well, there's ways to do all of this. I spent years developing in myself an ability to do it. No one taught me. I got lucky. I figured it out the hard way. And don't get me wrong. When I was doing it 15 years ago, people were like, he's great, but he's too, like, not a host. People want a host. Now people don't want a host. Twitter's doing shows. We want nobody who's like a host. We just want real. So I learned what it meant to be real, to be authentic, to try to put that together and pull it off. My first time on camera was on Good Morning America. First time on camera where I was being interviewed. I wasn't a host. And they told me to sit up straight. I put on a suit and tie. So proud my mom was going to see me. And they said, just look at the camera and answer the questions. I was a young political activist at the time. And man, when I saw that tape, I was like, there is nobody who would follow that guy into battle. He is the most boring, stick up his butt all the way through his head guy I've ever seen. And I vowed from that day on, I'm never going on camera again and doing what they tell me. I'm going to dress the way I dress. I'm going to talk the way I talk. I'm going to act the way I act. That is being authentic. And it worked. I launched a political campaign in the 90s. It became the biggest political movement for young people since the 60s. It was the first of the accountability campaigns. We ran 60 Minutes, all over the news. That's how I got to know the president. Hey, New York Times said I was one of the original spokespeople of Generation X. That's a real compliment. I got to help define the politics of my generation. So I've been doing it, practicing it. And I've always prided myself that I was an innovator, that I was ahead of the curve. I even had a Palm Pilot when they first came out. People were like, what is that for? Remember the Palm Pilots? I saw things before they happened. I led with my gut, with my instinct, with my authenticity. Engaged when engagement was passive. And it always worked. That's why the TV Guide said my show was like a new breed of late night talk show. It was just a little early. TV.com, Larry Namer did a streaming show with me called In Bed with Rob Nelson. Just a little early. Streaming wasn't up to date. I was always ahead, except for one time. When I was really young, I got to go to Japan as like carrying the suitcase thing right out of college for a little group that was doing American technology stuff. And I met with this guy at a dinner, and he took me to his apartment, and he told me about what he saw the future was going to look like. And he said, imagine, this is just past the mid-'80s, imagine a world where everybody communicates from house to house, desktop, computer to computer with each other. Phones will be secondary. He was describing email, he was describing the internet, which was called dark, still from darker then. He said, 10 years, that's how the whole world will work. 10 years, really now? This is pre-cell phones. No, not happening. He said, trust me, do you have $10,000? Put it in my company, we're just going public. Come on, 10,000. You'll thank me for it. I didn't do it, because I didn't believe the future could change that fast. Want to take a guess who that guy was? Well, give me a guess. Ken Nishi, co-founder of Microsoft. Ken Nishi, the one that Bill Gates credits in his book, told us if we sell to IBM for $50 million, we're millionaires. If we keep it, we're billionaires. That guy sat young Rob Nelson down and said, give me $10,000 and put it in my company right now. I didn't believe him. I didn't believe the future was going to change. How many days I wake up and think about how many millions of dollars that would be worth? How many people could get that? It's like a gift. I've never made that mistake again. And let me tell you something. We're in that same shift now. We are in a massive shift. A massive shift. It's happening right now. The future's actually happening just like it was then. We just haven't seen it play out. And it's going to affect all of us. It's going to affect every one of you, everyone you work with, everyone you know. It's changing, and how we succeed in it and identify ourselves in it. It's going to change literally the way we consume content and identify with the consumption of that content. Do you know they actually projected in 10 years people will be able to have sex in their brains? Sex from brain to brain. But I mean literally sex from brain to brain. So what does that mean? What does that mean about identity, about what reality is, about what authenticity is? It's a shifting landscape, and you need to be on it. Everyone you work with, everyone you sell to, everyone you market to, all your partners have to be aware of this. The on-camera world is a huge shift. It's not just we're on video. We're in a huge technological, digital information shift to hyper-immersive, hyper-engaged, hyper virtual, artificial reality, altering everything kind of content. And the only question you have to ask yourself is, are you ready? Are you ready? Thank you.